Okay, I think we're ready to do this. We're gonna touch base with my notes so we can have closure. I want you to know that one thing that this house has shown me is that's the kind of house that I could probably live in for the rest of my, in fact, I know I could. The right location, I could live in a house like that for the rest of my existence. And I would love it and appreciate it. It's an extension of my inner spirit. I love the skylights. I love the windows that you could see outside. Like the whole living room was windows. The whole side of the house pretty much was windows. I valued that. I used to like going into the master bedroom. The carpet was green. The blinds that were there on the side door. They had sliding doors in the master suite. Quality bed that I used to love to take naps on during the day when he trusted me to be at home alone with the house. I used to love running errands for him in his car. I like doing that, kind of being like a personal assistant. So I get to go on a mission by maybe a list of some things I need to do, even if it was going to personal needs like therapy, or if it was going into like getting electrolysis done and stuff. Sometimes it was going to pick people up, going to visit other girls in the community. One of the girls that I met there that I'm going to be talking about in the future is Catherine. She was evidently born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, transsexual female, beautiful person, beautiful spirit. She had moved up to Alaska for a brief time in her life, came back to Dayton. That's when I had the opportunity to meet her. And then our relationship ended, and I think she went back to Alaska, and I have not talked to her since. If she does see this, or anybody sees this that knows who I'm talking about or wants to communicate, and I know you, then I'll confirm who it is. But know that I would love to be friends with her, even if it's just to say hi once in a while. That would mean a lot. Unfortunately, when I came out here, my mind was really messed up. I was going through overwhelmingly much. And I would have much rather had met everybody with more of the mindset that I have today. So I'm sorry if I hurt anybody that I met in that house. I never wanted to hurt anybody. Know that I was going through a lot of stuff. That is not who I am. That was the mindset I had when I came out here. And I was going through more than I could actually handle, and without everybody that was a part of my life, like Dave, like Daddy, and all the other girls, Catherine, Cameron at the time, a lot of the other girls, I would have never, you were my support, and I hope that I was your support as well. Carol, I love you, and you used to make me laugh, even though I wasn't laughing on the outside and my head was kind of the way it was. Thank you for being there for me, especially during the time that I was passed out on the floor, drunk, and all I wanted to do was die, and you helped me actually get up and into the bathtub, so I wouldn't vomit all over everything. Thank you for that. Thank you, Carol, for helping me get into the bathtub safely. And a lot of people, when somebody's suicidal like that, wouldn't give them a time of day. They just tell you to go ahead and do it, or whatever the deal is. You guys have always been there to support me, and back then, and I really value that today. If you ever need somebody to talk to, know that I would love to be the person to be there for you. And I hope, if not that we ever communicate again, that there's forgiveness and happy thoughts would be in for memories. And if I could go back in time to that house, I would do things differently, and one of the things I would do differently is how I would love other people that came to the house. I would be more focused on loving the people that are walking through the door instead of what I'm going through personally. At that time, I was not able to do that, though, and I know that. I hope you understand. And I think you all do. I had a lot of pain in dealing with letting go of my apartment. At some point, Daddy came up with the idea, what would be best is that we close out the apartment and I just come out here to Ohio to live. With that being said, whatever was left over had to be removed. Whatever possessions were left, we would bring here. I needed to clean the apartment and finalize the lease with my landlord, who I love very much. I don't know if she's still alive. I think her husband, who was also my landlord, and a doctor in the local community in Cleona, Pennsylvania, had passed away. So, with that being said, she was all for my transition. She knew other transsexual females or transsexual people, and she knew how real it was over the years that they met, and they were okay with all of that. They were very supportive, and they couldn't understand why nobody else would just approve and be grateful to know me. They were very kind-hearted people. I loved my landlords very much, and I liked my cute little home. I'm glad I'm out of it now. I couldn't live there today, but it served its purpose during the time. I had personal responsibilities, and it was hard living with my stuff and the life that I came to know. In Pennsylvania, it was time for me to come out here. I felt, in a sense, at some point, my thought process felt like Daddy was ripping the life for me back in Pennsylvania out of my hands, and I was totally losing control, meaning I fell on my face and I lost total control of my life, and now he was taking over where I could not. And I tell you what, I had a lot of mixed emotions. Is he the most corrupted person I ever met in my life, or is he the sweetest man I ever met in my life? The sweetest person? I'd like to think that he was the sweetest person I ever met, but at the time when you're going through that, letting go, and somebody else there to enforce it, it feels like they're the ones. So you do a lot of shaming and blaming that it's all their fault that this is happening, meaning they're taking control over a situation that they shouldn't, but I couldn't. So I guess I wanted to blame my pain on an action that somebody else was doing, and that was part of it. The drive back on the Pennsylvania Turnpike with the trailer and my possessions, a truck or whatever that we use, I don't want to use my head for that right now. Know that I realize that they drove with me over 7 hours to go to Pennsylvania to load the vehicle up, my possessions of whatever was left, to help me finalize and clean the apartment, move all the stuff out, take care of what needed to be taken care of, and drive all the way back here. I don't know anybody else that would have done that for me on my behalf. I was scared out of my wits. Now it's a definite. I do not have a home. I have to accept this as my home. By the way, I was an adult entertainer for a reason, and that is I can't get work. Did not want me to get work, meaning it was understood that there was nothing I could do to get work. However, okay, hold on a minute. Let me make that clear. It's not that he didn't want me to get work. He was helping me knowing I couldn't get work. The only thing I could do is be an escort, and it was very clear that I don't want to do that anymore. Okay, I never did. To dabble with it and try it, and I'm not saying anything bad for people who do it, it's not as bad as what people say. What I've learned in my experience is the law is more corrupted than actually the clients if you're very selective. and you have your own standard and your own morals, and you stick to it. Don't let people, if you're escorting, you're an adult entertainer, never allow yourself to go against your own heart desire and morals. Do what you're willing to do when it comes to being an entertainer. Don't do what you don't want to do. That's where all the pain and suffering begins in anything in life. When we do something we don't really want to do, it already has inflicted a great deal of pain into our life. As an escort, if you keep breaking boundaries over and over again and you're not following, some people don't like to kiss, for instance. Some people don't like to provide certain services, if you will. The truth of the matter is, if you're kissing a stranger and you don't want to do it, meaning in everyday life, then you're going against your own heart values. You're going to feel lower about yourself naturally. Might be a little bit at first. The more you do it, the more it's going to feel that way. There's other people who are very comfortable with kissing somebody they're attracted to in a stranger is not really a stranger to some people, especially if they're attracted to them. With that being said, some people are very comfortable with kissing. In my life experience, there's a lot of people that I kissed, and there's some people that I would not kiss. Look, I didn't try to understand the details, but there would be other people who would pressure you. Why won't you kiss that person? You kiss everybody else. Sometimes you don't need to understand. You don't want to do it. How about that? So don't do what you don't want to do. And know that you're going to suffer less personal self-infliction. You need to keep your self-esteem and your own, how you feel about yourself. You need to keep it elevated, keep it up. And the best way to do that is not to break your own personal boundaries and morals under any circumstances. Always be safe. Hopefully that matters to you, because there's a lot of people out there that want to hurt a lot of people. Who knows why people are like that? Hurt, maybe. I missed being independent the most coming out here. Why did I keep wanting that? It's because I was independent for many years, since I was like 17 years old. I had times and seasons of other people helping me. There's no doubt about it. And I was in joint relationship with other people, sharing responsibilities. But in all honesty, this time I really wanted what I wanted, and I didn't want to be told I couldn't have it. And I had obligations that I really wanted to be there to take care of those obligations. When I couldn't get work, I had no other choice. I found a way. I explained about how I found out how I was going to be able to excel and do the things I did. I learned in my experience that, I'm not saying all of them, the cops are very unique. They're human beings. And I've learned what it was like. I never had a man in my life say that they're willing to take over the responsibilities to help me like my daddy did. From here on out, I'm going to call him my daddy, so I don't use their name. I really did feel like I was becoming his baby girl, and I remember in that house when I put on my diaper and I surprised him over at his office. I didn't know what he would think. It was me trying to have a sense of humor, to laugh. He accepted every single part of me, of my body, of my thoughts. I could talk to him about everything. And in a way, it seemed like he kind of liked that I was hurting, not because in a selfish way, but it was like he enjoyed comforting me. So understand, though, our relationship started kind of the way it did. Our relationship started at a celebration for, LGBT event. Not necessarily the way that I would have wanted it to start, but I'll never forget the way he looked at me at the venue. We got to know each other. We spoke a lot on the phone. I poured out the details of my life and my heart into his ear. Gave a lot of support emotionally, And now I'm out here. It started off terrifying to me. And as I'm working through that, know this. There's nobody else I would have rather went through it. And we had a very intimate encounter. Maybe several times. One of them was by the fireplace. That's one of the most memorable times. It was near when the house was getting ready to be sold, nearing close to closure. And to me, that was it was a fantasy day where I got to be by the fireplace with somebody very intimate and romantic in a beautiful, gorgeous house. I'll never forget that. I remember that's when I started realizing I might actually love this person more than I want to. You know? And looking back now, I know I loved him. And if I could go back, I would give myself to that person over and over again, and I would never, ever think that it was wrong, or I wasn't mentally able to do that, so that's what happened. I don't want to focus on that too much. He was in the process of divorcing his wife. I remember when I spoke to her, it was after our first encounter on the bed that I mentioned about. And she made me feel even worse because she did not know what it was that happened. I was not there to take her man. I was there in desperation. What hurt me the most is that she's a Christian woman and she doesn't know the details. She only knows what she thinks she knows. And I told her, if you really understood, at that time, this is what I said, if you really understood, you would be grateful that you're divorcing me. Under your thought process is what I was meaning and referring to. Some people are okay with other people sleeping with other people, and some people are not. If you're a person and you like variety and you want to sleep with other people, some people call them swingers. They like a variety. Then be honest with the person that you're with so they know that they're getting involved with. And some people are okay and they're saying, like in my situation, I'm going to be honest, let me describe it to you. I would want the person to know that I want to be faithful and loyal to one person. I don't want to sleep with a variety of people. Doesn't mean I'm a boring person or dull. It means I've been through what I've been through. I want to give my heart, my love, my body, my mind, my soul in a relationship to someone special that I feel is worthy of me exercising the fruits of Jesus Christ into their life, meaning forgiving them, loving them, supporting them, and helping them get through their life, and most importantly, having fun. Meanwhile, I understand a lot of times another person's needs is for variety. Do I actually want that? And the answer is I don't want it, but I've learned that I better be okay with it, because chances are my partner in life is going to be my best friend. And my best friend might want variety, and therefore we may do things that sociably says that it's wrong to do. And the truth of the matter is, whatever's right for people is what's right for people, so long as it's an agreement that it's okay. If somebody says no to you during an intimate encounter in that boundary area, if you hear this, please respect that person. Maybe later on, you'll be the one saying not now. And then it doesn't have to be entering into somebody's mind as a very hurtful experience to the point that it is rape. It is crossing boundaries of somebody. Let it be something that's more pleasurable and enjoyable, and respect a person's boundary so they don't have to feel that pain and deal with that on top of whatever else they're going through. I really wanted my SRS. And this is where I'm going to end with this before we go to LA Fitness. When I was on the bridge, when I came out here to Ohio, this gentleman had told me that they were going to help me. Obviously, neither of us know exactly how. But while I was at this house, one of the things that was mentioned to me is when the house sells, he was going to take a portion of what was received from the house, and he was going to pay for my SRS, surgical reassignment surgery. Some people call it GRS, gender reassignment surgery. When the house finally came to the point of selling, I'll never forget when he put his hand, when we were driving down the road in his car, he took his right hand and he put it on my lap. Okay. On this leg. And he told me that I will not be able to help you with the SRS. Now you can imagine how I felt at that time. I was hurt, mad, I felt betrayed. I thought to myself, what a creep. This is the person who raped me upon coming out here. This is a person who was dominating my life. This is the person who took control and yanked my apartment out of my life. This is what was going through my mind, the thought process, all of this combined. What else is going to happen to me next? Anybody who knows me knows that one of the reasons that was keeping me alive is I really, really wanted to go through a full, complete transition of what I wanted to do. You're going to learn in my relationship with my daddy out here in Ohio that I had to sacrifice a lot of things I loved in life. I couldn't really do anything except for exist. I had the best of food, I had the most beautiful house, I had the support, financial support, but my true needs were not really known by me, my responsibility, and I think I was being under attack. Some people would say by Satan. I'm here to tell you with what I've realized in later years, which was electronic harassment. So with what I described in my other videos, I was being targeted mentally. I believe that that's how, with the officer, was known with my words about getting me out of this now. I believe that when I was here with Daddy and the chanting happened, was exactly like the man I met in New Jersey, which made me wonder if Daddy was a part of a satanic cult of these people, because I'm learning that they're Satanists. That's exactly what they are. They're into sadism. Sadism, is that what it is? Sadism? They like to lead people into a torturous, I guess, departure, transition. They torment them. I have things to talk about with that as we move forward. Now, know this. If it's true about the electronic harassment, like I know that it probably is, if Daddy is not into Satanism, which I don't think he is. He never really showed any other signs with that. But the chanting scared the shit out of me. For a long time, I shared this with my psychologist. Understand, when I shared it with my psychologist, they told me it was, number one, living with him would be considered quicksand environment, unhealthy. I could not live with him because it was detrimental to my mental health. The problem is, I kept seeing the God spirit in him, Jesus Christ. He had a lot of characteristics of like my grandfather. that I loved. It didn't mean that I looked at him like a grandfather. To me, he was a beautiful Italian person, and I loved a lot of the wonderful things that were instilled inside of him, his viewpoints. Definitely his love for God was the greatest. But yet at the same token, it seemed like there was another half, like maybe he was locked up, charcoal eyes at times, and it seemed that he would be completely opposite of his words of what he told me he would do. So rather than honoring thy words that he had mentioned, it seemed like he did it to lead me out here, and then he betrayed me. I was hurt when he said I wasn't going to get the SRS, but I'm also mature enough to know that technically it's my responsibility. And in other words, how dare I ever think that somebody else should do that for me? But it hurt, because I realized that he was going to get, the finances for the house, and I knew he had his own obligations, but he told me he was going to take care of that. That would have meant a lot. Not only did he mention that, he also mentioned about marrying me. For this reason, obviously for partnership, friendship, togetherness. I knew he didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be alone. It was a means that he would be able to take care of me. He was a military man who was retired. So there would be some benefits for myself for life. Right now we were concerned about my existence. How can I have my existence? Meaning I needed finances, I needed health care, I needed safe housing, and to be able to afford to eat and take care of whatever. Plus there's other passions, and I wanted to get involved in ministerial work. So when we were talking, it assumed that he really wanted to contribute that in the factor of what? He would marry me, and then I would have the benefit of being a wife to a military person. And I gotta tell you, was a fantasy of mine at that time, so I would have been very happy to be married to a military man that was Italian. That would have been incredible. Beautiful house, very American traditional kind of life. What almost a lot of American women have, or people in general, had fantasies about at some point in our life. So to be with somebody who would take care of you was great. Now, how do I help them? Do you understand? How do I help this person in exchange for they're doing nice things for me, but I can't just look good, if that's what you want to say. I was an adult entertainer. Can't just look good. What can I do to contribute to our relationship? Music is my real passion. Can I sing to him to sleep? Or when he's in the car, he used to tell me a lot of times, just sit in the back and sing and let God steer. Let God drive us, if that's what you want to say. Sit in the back and sing and let God have the wheel, Not exactly that way, but that's what it was in reference to. Now, also, in closure, one of the other things that he wanted to do was start a company which was called ProRx. Now, I have a t-shirt with me and one of the girls that came to be at Kings Island in 2009. Now, here's the thing. I was self-employed as a musician. I played out a lot. It's an overwhelming responsibility for me as a solo acoustic entertainer. I did not have a band. I didn't have people helping me lug the equipment around. I didn't have people helping me do bookings. I did website design. I did promotions, articles. You name it, I did all kinds of things. And I got to be honest, when I realized I kept reaching out to people with my music because I was hoping to get songs published or get a record deal and tour, and I wanted my life to be about, doing music and stuff. But the thing is everything was wrong with my personal identity. Whoops. And there was a lot of other things that I'm wanting to talk about that I was not content with when doing music as a business. It was time for me to get out. When I got out, I went back to driving truck. I realized that my personal identity, that's what Christ was calling me into. I explained that in my other YouTube videos. As I came out of the dark pit, the only job I could get was FedEx for 6 weeks. After that, I was jobless. I tried to have a job there. I was going to try to be a contractor. That did not work out. And I got to be honest, I'm glad, because then I wouldn't have had this experience. And the life that I'm about ready to receive every day of my life, for the rest of my life. Him wanting to start this business, or a business, especially something I wasn't passionate about, I'm feeling led into music ministry. To start another business was not for me. This is somebody, I had been in every aspect. In order to run my business, I had to do everything, and that's something I never was happy with. But it's what was best. For instance, if I would get somebody to, like booking shows for you, like a booking agent, they usually they up the price, and then they take 2/3 of your income, of what you're generating. Well, the bottom line is it's argumentative, in my opinion. I'm the one who's doing all the work and I'm showing up. I think that's a little absurd. And other people's ideas is, well, you wouldn't get that show if it wasn't for me. So what is the agreement? Is it 50-50? What do you think? What do you think a booking agent should get for getting you a well-paid show? Considering you're going to do all the actual labor, they just have they have the contact. Okay, so they can get you in. I decided to just keep doing everything myself because it was more beneficial in the long run. When it came to finances especially. The problem is, it's not how I wanted to spend my life by myself. I would have rather shared it with other people. Plus, I'm not playing the venues I want to, and I'm not traveling in the transportation I want to. We're going to talk about all that in the future. Now, with that being said, I got out of that. I couldn't get a job. I only temporary, or the job's never paid enough for me to be able to maintain my life and go through the transition. You other girls know exactly what I'm talking about. When I couldn't get work, rather than go through the humiliation of losing everything and becoming homeless, and I knew I couldn't live with other people, I ended up becoming an adult entertainer. I explained how I finally felt good to have money in my hand. I went all in. And being self-employed as an adult entertainer, to me, there was a lot that I was appreciative, and that was I could just simply put a picture of myself online, be honest about my likes, put my phone number, and the phone calls would come to me. I didn't have to call and beg people to play in their venues or kick in doors, if you will, aggressively attack to try to get shows for myself. I didn't have to be at the mercy of all these other people. I could just simply post an ad. People call me. As long as they're respectful, they're clean, and fun to be around, they could come to my place. I even invited them to my apartment at the time. The cool people that I would meet, very friendly. It was just like we're friends, so it's, it's just that I was living more of an open relationship kind of thing. And in my opinion, what happens in somebody's home, for the most part, when it comes to intimacy, how about that? When it comes to intimacy, stays in the home, okay? I have a lot of strong opinions about adult entertainment in America, and our rights, and people who violate those rights. Now, with that being said, I didn't want to escort. I really believed that God was calling me into a rock and roll ministry. And I've learned over the time, if I didn't say it then, it was more for children. I'm realizing family-oriented. I wanted to get away from singing in front of people, at bars with lots of alcohol, and the whole purpose is to sell as many drinks and get the cash register numbers up and sell as much food as possible. I'd really like to form a band, play beautiful theaters, have beautiful transportation, because I went through many years of not traveling to a standard that would really light up my eyes. meaning I would be very grateful for. I had to go through a lot of hard times of sleeping in a car, sleeping in a cargo van, sleeping in roach-infested hotels, houses. There were many times I pulled alongside the road sleeping in my car. And I had to sleep with, at rest areas, and I had to sleep with other people and stuff in order to travel. I'm glad it's in the past. I don't want this anymore as far as that part goes. I don't want to. I got kicked out of a lot of people's homes for various reasons that I can't believe that it happened. So I know what it's like to be homeless for at least brief seasons and to be kicked around a lot because you can't get yourself in a situation where you can be on a solid concrete foundation. Okay? So we're talking about a lot of the things I desired when I was living here. Was one of them is I wanted to move to California, or I wanted to move down to Nashville. I'm a songwriter, I'm an entertainer. Whether it's adult entertainment or it's music or being an actress, something. There has to be something that I can do if I can't get and maintain a regular job. How about something I'm very passionate about? I always wanted to model and stuff like that. Well, I started doing it as an adult entertainer. I'm not saying I was the greatest. I did these things and I really loved it, and I would have loved to do things on a very, very professional level, what people call professional level. I would love to continue to do it and have a beautiful life in the process of it. With that being said, I'm thinking of when I'm even living here, I want to move to California, I want to move to Nashville. I'm doing my music. I also believe God's calling me to rock and roll ministry. Now, Daddy's trying to motivate me and let's get this business started. And it started with website design. The problem is, I'm sick of being on the computer. I'm sick of using my body to promote. I'm sick of being self-employed. Did I say that? I'm sick of that. And one thing I did not like is always having to be on the computer. I don't want to have to be on the computer all the time at this time, okay? I'm starting to become better with that. But I want to live real life, I want to live real life. Not a hard life, a good life. I want to do things in reality. There's passions that I just love and would love to experience with other people, share life together. There has to be people out there that would just really value and appreciate somebody who could be a very good friend and just share in passions together. I have a lot of things going on my mind that I'm going to talk about with you coming up. I'm ready to go to LA Fitness right now. I joined the gym when I was over here. And know this, I was heartbroken because at that same table, well, we're going to finish off here really quick. I'm bouncing around, sorry. A Pro RX, we only did a little bit with. I'm sorry, Daddy, if you see this. The last thing I needed to do was, at that time, I know it seemed like I was being selfish, and I'm sorry for that, because I did want to contribute and I wanted to do something, but I didn't understand about desires and passions like I do now. And the truth of the matter is, I don't want to do anything that's going to consist a lot of time of me sitting in a chair and being on a computer. I really want to do something that breathes life into me. I love to sing, I love to dance, I love to, my way. And I love to walk, and I love to ride bike, and I love to hike, and I love waterways like the ocean and the lake, and being on the beach and enjoying the sun. And these are the things that bring me closer to God. When I have to sit down in front of a computer and keep living my life, I'm thinking life is passing by, and I had all these other things on my mind. So I felt really bad about that. I hated being on the computer at that time. I want to really do something I want to do. So with that being said, I used to be kind of like a personal assistant. He was in the process of moving. There's a lot of stuff in the house to move and needed cleaned up, and I wasn't really in for that either. Was I selfish? That was really stuck in my mind, and I'm sorry. A lot of people would say I'm selfish, or I was selfish back then. I didn't want to be. And what I realized is I just mentally was not there. I really needed to get away from the survival mode and having to do stuff and having my own place, which we're going to talk about. It took me almost 5 to 9 years, like 9 years, to learn what I learned from that I knew that day to who I am today. And if you listen to this, even though it might be long and boring, know this: there is very, very valuable information in this that I believe that instead of it taking 9 years, it could take somebody 2.5 to 3.5 years. You could cut at least 1/3 of the time off, trimming the fat off, the unnecessary, if you just know how to handle and what your needs are and how to get those immediate needs met. We're learning over the years how to handle this. Let's go to LA Fitness. I don't know how much memory is left on this card. I love that house. I know he loved that house. He built that house. When we talk again about the next house that I moved into, know that I was disappointed that we were living more of a what I perceived at the time. I felt like we were leaving a more upscale neighborhood and house. It was gorgeous. And now we're living in a suburban. You know, and either way, no matter how you look at it, it was still better than probably anything I ever had in my whole life. Just about. Maybe not always, but just about. And the house that I came to love the most. I love that house. I love the other house that I lived in. Now, are you ready with me? Ready. Are you ready with me? Are you ready with me? Are you ready with me? We're going to LA Fitness, and we're described to you in the conversation as to what I'm aiming to do with this. I was hurt, I was devastated when I was on the road as an escort. I used to exercise a lot. This helped me with my mental challenges, stress, depression, anger, any kind of personality disorder. It helped me get through life. I wasn't playing music, and I wasn't playing music at this time. I was going to the gym a lot. One thing I loved and looked forward to when I was living in hotel rooms was going to new gyms and trying out new equipment. This was a very important factor in my life. I've been working out and exercising since I was 7 years old. When I came out here, I mentioned this to him because I knew he was the one who was financially taking care of me, which made it kind of challenging for me to say I need to join a gym where you pay for it, because I was fighting whether this is important to me or not. It's something that was in my life. I could have worked out other ways, but I had to have a gym. And I can honestly say I'm sorry about that. But at that time, mentally, I wasn't ready to let go of going to a gym. And I hope someday I probably would only go like maybe once a week if I'm lucky. I'd rather have a house with my own fitness setup in, you know, my own machines and stuff in my own house. I like that. That's what I used to think at his house, down in the basement, if we'd keep it, that way you could put like a treadmill, an elliptical, some other equipment, and just free weights and stuff, and I could exercise down in there. I was always kind of big about that. I was always hoping someday I could have a fitness center in my house. And we never even have a house. So, join a gym. He's in the process of moving. When I went to this gym, understand I was still from Pennsylvania. My Pennsylvania license, which I will talk about, it's disappeared from my apartment that I'm living in now. Somebody stole it. How was it stolen? I don't know. We'll talk about that. Went to this gym. I remember looking up online, where's the closest gym. I want to go to a gym of quality. It was very important. A gym that had all the equipment, because at least I could go there to relieve some of my stress. I didn't know how to deal with all the other stuff that I realized appeared to others that I was avoiding. I wasn't avoiding it, I wasn't aware that that's what I should be doing. I was self-saturated. Not a bad thing. I need to take care of your health. But I was self-saturated because of where I was mentally. I was in a lot of pain. When I went to this gym and I talked to people, I was really excited. The thing is I went in soon after to use the locker room. When I used the female's locker room, and I came out, the person at the counter at that time, a big muscle head, very good looking, had asked me if he could see my driver's license. I was nervous about this, but I volunteered, and many girls in the community said, "Why did you show your driver's license? You should have told him that's overstepping boundaries. It's none of his business. Well, it's on my driver's license." He wanted to see it, and I saw him right away. He looked at the gender status, which at that time was male. Okay? It's Tracilyn Michael, but it was male. Had the name corrected, but not the gender status. With that being said, that's humiliating. All the other girls that had to go through this, it was humiliating during the time. Some of us deal with it a lot better than others. Some of us get into huge arguments and turn it into a comedy act, and other people have a meltdown and cry. I felt like I was being ganged up on. Understand everything else I went through. Now I'm going to a gym. I need to be going to a gym. This guy asked me for a license. Another guy is standing behind me, like they were threatened by me. The guy threw my driver's license at me, and he said that I cannot use the female's locker room. I have to use the male's because that's what's on my gender status. They were very disrespectful. When I left, I went back to the house and I cried to Daddy. I sat at that kitchen table. I gave calls and emails to headquarters. I asked if I would receive an apology. I never received an apology. I never received a reply in my email. And the truth of the matter is, when I did talk to somebody over here, their exact words were, "We don't see why we should give an apology. There's no apology in order." Okay, they were in favor of some lady that was in the female locker room, in the stall. Because all I did was I went in there, I checked my weight, I went into the stall to use it. Nobody's seen me. You know, I wouldn't do that. I didn't show my private parts. Okay, I was always trying to be respectful of others' idea of life, knowing my circumstance. Psychologically, I could not go to the male's locker room at that time, okay? Or now. Well, I could now to flirt with them maybe, if they're okay with it. But it's not where I am best. The best way for me to navigate my life is not going into the male locker room with my identity up here. Okay? I identify more with the female species. Plus, with my life background, it's always psychologically best for me to blend in with the female species and use the locker room. Okay? I'm not there to offend anybody or to reveal what's between my legs, you know, and make a scene about it. I'm there to enjoy life. In fact, imagine how I feel going in there knowing that other people are somewhere else in their mind, and if they acknowledge that my body part is similar to that of a male species, you know, because let's face it, I had a penis, okay, an outie instead of an innie, then they're going to assume that a man is in there and they're going to want me out. And that's how this lady was. She was hysterical over this, but she didn't see my body part. She somehow put it in her head, acknowledged that I was most likely either a man or that I was a transsexual who still had the body part. I don't know how she knew. I gotta be honest. How did she know? Or did they assume, because they're a personal evaluation, or they finally noticed that they blamed it on a lady who was in the locker room at that time. I remember she had brunette hair. She was probably about 43 to 47 years old. And she looked like she was a bitter person. I'm hurt, I'm going through things, I'm trying to mind my own business. When that happened and he threw my driver's license at me and I picked it up, you gotta understand, with another guy or two watching me, these were big muscle heads, I was scared. I went home and I cried. LA Fitness headquarters did not reply. I was told over the phone that they did not feel whatsoever an apology should be given. By the way, this is before there was an outbreak of a whole lot of transsexuals in the community coming out in commercial industry on overload. People talking about it. Actors, actresses, musicians, you name it. This was still during quiet time. So imagine how I felt going through this, and I didn't have nobody there to be with me. Daddy did the best he could to be emotionally supportive and said, just go join another gym. Today I'm going back there. I'm not going to demand. I know that I'm outnumbered. I'm going to ask to speak to the manager. I hope it's a woman, and I can get her an apology. If I don't, no LA Fitness, that in my opinion back in 2009, if I were to be strong, I would tell you that you're a bunch of assholes. And you're very fucking discriminative towards the transsexual community. My hope is that you changed. My acknowledgement was you're a bunch of hard asses. And in my opinion, you should be bending over backwards and kissing my ass and making things right. Because I'm about ready to show, after I leave there, in conversation, that it can be a lot different. In my opinion, I would tell people, do not ever go to LA Fitness. They're a bunch of hard asses, they're discriminative, they're judgmental, they're rude. Who throws a driver's license at anybody? They're not lords. Let me tell you something, LA Fitness. You're not lord over your members or the local community, by the way, because this is disrespectful to the whole community. You're not lords over it. You're not rulers over it. When you set up a business like that, you're here to serve your members. And I understand the best interest part. But I was also a member too, and I was going through a very, very challenging time when your employee threw my driver's license at me. That was very disrespectful, and you know it. I want an apology. I'm going to be nice when I go there because I don't want to start any serious trouble. But to be honest with you, when I'm outspoken and I'm talking to other people, I tell them straight up. It hurt more because I went to a lot of gyms on the East Coast and in California, wherever I went, and they were always respectful to me and supportive. And they knew I was a transsexual, okay? I'm okay with people knowing I'm a transsexual female. The problem is, they respected me. I was in the locker room, I didn't make a scene, and I'm out, okay? And by the way, I had papers drawn up that I identify as female. I was under psychological evaluation during that time. Technically, if I was strong enough at that time, and I would encourage other people, I could have sued you for that. Big time. The problem is I was hurt. I couldn't do that. I have been going through hell up to that point. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to let people know in the future, when things like that happen, sue LA Fitness if they continue to mistreat its members, or customers, or visitors. So let's see what happens, and then we'll finish up with the fitness part. Because I ended up joining another gym where actually, I won't say his name at the time, this was years ago, but he was kind of, he'd flirt with me a little bit. He'd tease me with his muscles, and he'd smile. And in my opinion was, they already knew I was transsexual. I feel that he was doing it because he was trying to lift my spirits. In other words, you're safe here. I heard your story. Not everybody's like that in Ohio. Enjoy the gym and work on that body, because that's why you're here. Body, mind, and soul. And he understood that. He helped me out a lot. And his teasing, you know, in a flirtatious way, was, it lifted my spirits. I needed it. So if you're out there and you see this, he was of dark skin. That was one reason I used to like going to the gym, even though I was really nervous, because I didn't want to humiliate him amongst the other members or any of his friends or coworkers. But if he ever sees me out and about again, know that you could flirt with me anytime. I'm more comfortable with who I am, and at this time I'm not as hurt, nowhere near as bad.